serviced branches and members, affiliated workers' union, civil society organization, research and educational institutions, professional organizations, doctors for economic freedom, lawyers for economic freedom, engineers for economic freedom, teachers for economic freedom. An organization that has built adequate mass, political and ideological power to win elections and provide progressive, decisive and responsive socialist government at national, provincial and local government. An organization with maximum capacity to train, develop, guide and oversee and monitor all its employees in all spheres of the state. A mass campaigning organization that consistently wins over members to the struggle for economic freedom and is active even in the period when there are no elections. A pan-continental movement with the ability to win elections not only in South Africa but in other parts of the African continent. An organization with elected structures at all levels that have an independent capacity to organize like you did tonight and mobilize society behind the struggle for economic freedom and assist ordinary people with everyday challenges. A fully functional organization with a functioning EFF Women's Command, Youth Command and Student Command, and ultimately a Young Pioneers Movement. An organization with excellent research and policy development capacity to guide all fighters and commissars deployed in all spheres of government. An organization with an institutional political school that produces the best graduates in various fields of study and has internal capacity to send minimum 500 students to the best university across the world every year. An organization with a sound relationship with other fraternal organizations on the African continent and other parts of the world. Organization with sound business interests that generate enough money to fund its own programs without reliance on external funders. An organization that owns all its properties and has a property portfolio which include national conference facilities and accommodation. An organization with full capacity, with a fully functional and efficient media publicity division that publish a weekly newspaper, quarterly journals, books, and has capacity to directly communicate with more than 10 million people all at once through various channels. An organization that has a perfect internal communication mechanism which will ensure that on a weekly basis members and activists of the organization have access to the latest organizational resolutions and programs. Comrades, the Central Command Team is your highest decision-making body, and the Central Command Team should be comprised of commissars who have individual as well as collective capacity to provide leadership to the people of South Africa. The CCT should be composed of members who deeply understand the founding manifesto of the EFF, the constitution and all other policies of the organization. The CCT should be composed of members who are able to conduct political education and training to all lower structures of the organization. The CCT should be composed of members who will not complain about the vastness of South Africa and are thus able and willing to travel the length and breadth of South Africa to do the work of the organization. The CCT should be composed of commissars who will not completely depend on the organization for everyday basic organizational necessities such as travel to their areas of deployment and must have capacity to legitimately and legally fundraise in a manner that will not compromise the organization and themselves as individuals. CCT commissars should command absolute clarity on all issues, actively and consistently seek to improve their levels of knowledge and expertise on diverse range of issues and topics. The CCT should be defined by a certain degree of quality wherein only those who have demonstrated very qualified leadership qualities and loyalty to the organization should be able to be elected into this structure. The CCT should be composed of commissars who are able to coherently write perspective and submissions and are able to make presentation on their own writings. The CCT should be composed of commissars who can speak coherently and cogently without being guided by anyone. The CCT should be composed by commissars who are able to conduct media interviews and participate in public debate in a manner that will not bring doubt on the collective capacity of the organization. The province must have the same capacity. We cannot have a provincial leadership which cannot implement its own programs and hold mass rallies in stadiums without assistance of the head office. If you are a province that has never organized a rally without the national office putting any cent, you must know you do not meet the qualification of being a provincial structure. EFF provincial offices must be owned and controlled by the EFF structures that are relatively independent from the national leadership, and they will be responsible for all the lower structures in that province. The PCT must hold the same and relevant competencies in their province as those of the commissars. No one should be able to lead a province if you can't read and write your own perspective, if you can't conduct media interviews, if you can't agitate your own communities. Who are these regional leaders who don't have properly constituted RCTs? Why do they call themselves regional leaders without regional leadership? Why do they call themselves with regional leaders if they do not have membership? Why are they called regional leaders when the number of members is the same number of leaders of that particular region? The membership is the leadership, therefore there can't be leadership. Comrades, region must have capacity to organize their own events and organize their own memorial service in salutation of those who pass on. The regions must have the capacity to bury their own with dignity without any form of assistance by the provincial leadership. All of the substructures of the EFF have got an obligation to make sure that indeed where they exist, there is a fully fleshed branch of the EFF. You can never be a leader of the EFF if you don't come from a branch. What type of a branch do you have which can organize transport for members from one VT to the other VT? It can be a legitimate branch. A branch must at least PCT meet once a week and hold membership meetings once a month. If your branch is not meeting weekly, there's no branch. A branch must have an address. It must not depend on the address of the branch chairperson. Like other political parties do not have head offices. They depend on the address of the president of that political party. Let a branch have its own identifiable operation center where, when people need the EFF, can always go and visit that operation center. Branches must be fully functional, and they must have VD coordinators who are no less than 10 members. Branches of the EFF must be active members of their own communities. You must be active member in each and every street, organization, club, such as churches, stokvels, and all such organized formation. EFF branch must be able to communicate with all members of the community in the branch through the use of local media and all other necessary forms of mobilization and organizing. Fighters, you can't be an activist if you can't take part in the struggles of communities. You are not an activist if you cannot call a small event and agitate a community to protest against this or that community matter.